we'll start with the second lesson.
Right. Sounds good. Okay. Becoming a problem solver. Write down situations at school or work where you avoid feeling angry because you've learned to respond as a problem solver.
So there are situations maybe at home, as we already discussed, wherein if my demands are not met, or if my wants are not met properly, maybe I don't get that particular type of food that I eat, the soft food that I eat, or maybe at a particular time, if things are not happening at a particular time and at a particular place, I might get angry. So as a problem solver, I've learned to deal with it in an effective manner. So I understood that things are not under your control. I gave up. No, you need not have things under your control. You can have your mind under your control, but you cannot have the external factors under your control. So so this is what made me a problem solver. This thought made me a problem solver.
Nice. Good answer. Okay, very good. Other situations in your life you can use that same problem solver skill.
So the problem solver external factors are not under your control. So actually, when the external factors are not under your control, you're free now, because you don't have that type of expectations. So when you don't have expectations from outside of your range or from external things, then I feel that you won't be angry, or you will never be angry. You will be more peaceful. You will be in peace, is what I believe. So definitely this problem solver skills is applicable to every situation in my life. Be it sad, be it happy. Especially when I talk about things which are not under my control, when I just leave them as they are, because the only thing that has to be under my control is my mind. So definitely I feel that in other situations, when I have this problem solver attitude, I'm able to deal well.
Nice.
Deal better.
Good answer. Okay. Yep. Okay, think about why you were able to respond without anger in the above situations and write down your thoughts. Why, how were you able to respond without anger?
So I'm able to respond without anger. Why is because I understood that anger is not good. It is contagious. It is communicable, but it is more of a disease. It is more of a disease. So what happened recently? I'll narrate a story where I'll narrate a recent happening wherein I was angry with my dad on a particular aspect, because the things that I planned, it didn't go as I planned, and I was angry with my dad. So what I did was I didn't have I told him that no, today I'm not having dinner. So he was like, please have dinner. He was requesting me, please, because what I eat? I eat soft foods, molded foods, which I can easily swallow. So my dad was like, you have to please have dinner, please have dinner. He was insisting, and he was telling me, if you have it late, again your gastric issues might be aggravated. But then I was very adamant. I was very angry. No, I'm angry. So today I'm not having food. And then what happened was at 10 o'clock, my stomach, it started it started to feel, I started to feel little discomfort in my stomach. It's because of the gas being formed, because whenever I don't eat on time, the gastric issues, the acid reflux, it becomes very, very strong. So my stomach I started feeling uneasy, and there was a lot of gas that is trapped in my esophagus. And at the same time, my father also, he didn't have his dinner, because he always has his dinner after I complete having it. So what happened because of my anger was, I spoiled my own health. I had gastric problem because of that. My gastric problem aggravated, and at the same time, my father, whose health is also not good, he skipped dinner because of me. So my anger actually did
Oh.
no good to me. It only did bad to me and my dad, to me and my environment. So I understood that the external factors are controlling me. The external factors are controlling my mind and making me do something that I don't want, but I'm doing it because of my ego. I'm angry because of that external factor affecting my ego. So I've understood that, this is the problem. So I have to solve the problem. So how to solve the problem is not to have any expectations from the external world. So the only person from whom I can have expectation is me and not anyone else. So
Nice. No expectations from the external world. Good conclusion. Great. Okay. Very good. Good example. Okay. Last one is make a list of other situations in your life where you experience anger and you would like to apply those same problem solver skills instead.
Okay. Other situations in life where you experience anger. So in all situations, my basic reason for being angry is when I'm unable to do particular thing which I want to do, or when things are not done in a framework that I wanted them to happen. So, or in a time frame, or in a particular way that I wanted them to happen. So these things actually make me angry. So I believe that these problem solver skills are definitely applicable. Uh, and I understood that these problem solving skills have drastically reduced my anger. When I put this problem solving thought in my mind, it has drastically reduced my anger. And the main reason for that anger is that external factor again controlling my ego. So now I'm free of that. I have that freedom. So now that problem solver skill of not having expectations from the external world is something which is making wonders, and is actually helping me a lot, to be frank.
All right.
So it is applicable everywhere.
Excellent. Great. Great. You're saying that the problem solving skills dramatically decrease your anger. That's very cool.
Yes.
That's very cool. All right. Well done. Okay. So the next part of this is a fair amount of just text. So we'll go through it briefly. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I don't think we should read the whole thing, but there are some very good points in there, very, very good points in there. So everything is determined by the decisions we make. So what we're saying is that everything's based on what's going on inside of us. We take our thoughts and our feelings. A lot of people try to do just cognitive. I'm just going to make a logical decision. I'm going to keep my feelings out of it. Well, good luck with that. All right. You can't, but it's anyway. We tend to balance is about keeping our thoughts and our feelings into account, and then deciding. We've got lots of great information that our body gives us, and of thinking, are lots of great information that our body gives us about what we're feeling, and we put those together and we make good decisions based on this wonderful data that our body is giving us. Right, we're trusting ourselves, so that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
And then so we actually go thought, feeling, evaluation, decision, action. And so we're talking here about the decision part, and the decision part is like you said, is our freedom. That's our freedom, because we are free to decide. We can go all kinds of different ways. Nobody can make us decide anything that we don't want to. We get to decide, etc. So decisions are a huge part of this whole thing. It says everything that happens in our life is determined by the decisions we make. Wow, that's a pretty big statement, but it's really is true. It really is true, don't you think?
Yes, definitely. We are in a particular situation in our life only because of decisions we made in the past. So definitely, I believe that it's all because of
Yep. If we want to make effective decisions in our life, to think and act in ways that are the most beneficial to us, it is important that we understand how our mind works. And this lesson has some specifics about how our mind works. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. When we are coming up with wrong answers, we need to learn how to recognize this and make corrections. The more we understand about how our mind works, the more capable we are of making the better decisions for ourselves. The way that I usually teach this is that, like I said, you take your thoughts and your feelings into account, and the way we balance them, go, does this make sense? Logically, does it make sense? Our IQ, left brain, logic, cognitive side, and does it feel good or feel right? Do we take into account our feelings, our emotions, our intuition, our our energy, and we put those together, and then we can make good decisions, not just cognitive, not just feeling. If we do one too much, it doesn't go very well a lot of times. If we do the other one too much, it doesn't go very well a lot of times. If we're, that makes a lot of sense, but man, that feels awful. Or it feels great, but it doesn't make any sense, like addictions and like, I don't know, your example of when you skip dinner, it probably felt right. You're like, nope, that's it. You got your arms crossed. You're like, nope, I'm not doing it. It feels right, but it doesn't make any sense. So, right, in that particular case, we're skewed this way.
Yes,
Lots of right brain, not too much left brain. So
that's true.
So here's an example. Yeah. Did you want to share something about that?
Yes, Matt. As you said, it has to be perfectly balanced. It shouldn't be skewed on any side. Actually, it has to be perfectly balanced. And the thoughts and the feelings that we have to evaluate them perfectly, decide, and then go get them onto action, get them into action. So I definitely agree with this point.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep. Okay. So the example in the book is, you are working in an office and a coworker takes credit for your work and treats you unfairly. You need to work with him on a project that's been assigned to you, but you refuse to talk to him because of the way he has treated you. Kind of like your example. You need to work with him to successfully complete the project assigned to you. Because you refuse to talk to him, your work is done poorly, you lose your job. How has your anger response worked for you? How has
Very bad.
So very bad. It's worked on you. I don't know if it's worked for you.
Awful.
Yeah, very badly. True. Yeah. For our purposes, we don't need to understand the technical aspect of how the mind works. We do, however, need to know how the mind functions if we are going to make changes in what we think, feel, and do, and decide and do in there. I'll explain to you how our mind works in a functional way so you will be able to understand what happens inside your mind between perception and action, between perception and action. Perception is how we see things. That's our reality, our world, our point of view, our lens, whatever you want to call it, but it's our perception of how we see things. It doesn't really matter all that much what actually is happening. It's not that it doesn't matter, but what matters more is our perception of it, because then that's what we're going to act on, right?
Yes, man.
All right. Says we have 5 physical senses, and through intuition receive signals from the outside. When that signal comes in, it goes to a recognition center where we try to make sense out of it, to understand it enough to decide how to process it. The first place the recognition center looks is in the memory files to see if there are any memories that tell us that this thing we perceive means, what it means to us. What it means, that's a huge part of this. That should be in all caps, big letters. What it means to us. That's the perception part, is that it doesn't matter what's happening. It matters what it means to us and what it means about us. Meaning, yes, that's important to me, but also, you know what, since your example, my dad would kind of disrespected me or something, didn't do what I wanted him to do. That means that he doesn't respect me, or that I'm not important to him, or some other big generalizations, that meaning that you put on it, on that action, the meaning you put on it to you. And that's where a lot of this gets, where we get we get where we function and where we get in trouble, both, because we got these meanings that we put on things. So it also, so our memory looks to see if there are any instructions in there telling us what to do with it. So we do have experiences. We try to learn from our past, right? And we try to do things better based on what has happened to us in the past. And so we go into our memory and go, okay, yeah, that's just, I've been through this before, and it may or may not have worked well, but we're going to take that into account as well. So if the recognition center recognizes something that we already know how to do, it sends a message to the automatic response center, which then sends the signal to the action center, which then puts out the instructions that we act on, or what we say and do. There's a graph on this, a flow on this in a minute, but I'm just reading the words for now to explain it. This response is so automatic that we are often not aware that we are doing it, like breathing. We're just doing it, right? We're just doing it, and we don't have to think about it. That's called unconsciously competent. We're just doing, or incompetent, but we're doing it. We're doing it, and we're not particularly conscious of it. It does not involve our reasoning or emotions or our belief system. That part has already been taken care of in the past. This takes up so little of our brain's processing capability that we're able to do other complicated reasoning or emotional functions at the same time we are carrying out our automatic responses. Okay, so automatic responses are a good thing. We got to do them. We got to breathe, and we got to, when we're driving, we can just drive. We don't have to really think about it. When we're doing a lot of things, when we're eating, well, maybe not for you, but for some people, you just do it. But it's automatic, and you don't have to think about it. So that's all happening. But but what we can do, and what you're doing now, is to become aware of our automatic responses and then decide if that's how we want to go. We don't have to necessarily base it on what we used to do, what we've always done, our habitual thinking. We can do it consciously, cognitively, smartly, intelligently, and in the moment, in the present, and have it work out better, hopefully. What do you think?
Yes, man. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Do you want to read a little bit, so it's not just my voice? You want to talk about them?
Yes.
Read about them automatic responses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Automatic responses can be very simple, such as breathing or picking up a pen. They can be much more complex, such as driving a car or flying an airplane, even to the extent of responding to an emergency, such as engine failure, if we have been trained well enough. Yes. An automatic response is fine until we want to change a response because it is no longer appropriate. Then it can drive us crazy. Yeah. So when we try to break an ingrained habit, it can be very difficult. As an example, after 14 years, my wife has moved the cereal bowls to the adjacent cupboard from where they have always been. It took me almost 6 weeks before I was opening the correct cupboard to get a bowl. So when I decided to pay attention, it didn't take long to change my behavior. So no wonder breaking habits like smoking can be so difficult for a long-time smoker. It is really helpful to understand the process if you're going to attempt to make changes. Perfect. So many of our memories have negative or positive charges attached to them. So when this is the case, the message is then sent to our emotional center to add feeling content. This feeling content signals to us how important this message is and how much focus and energy we should put into our response. Wow. This is something new learning for me. So positive charges create love-based responses and negative charges produce fear-based responses. The heavier the charge, the more effect our emotional center has in determining a response. If you know what to do, then the message is sent to the automatic response and react.
I wanted to interrupt for a second because I think that's really important about the love-based responses versus fear-based responses. Okay.
Yes.
A lot of people, there's a lot of theories about how many different emotions we have, and they rate, and they all quite sure they're right. They're all quite sure they're right.
Yes.
I have them in my book. I think I have 15 of them, and they're all science-based, and they're all researched, and they're all completely different from each other, and they're all right. Right. So you kind of have to decide one of the most basic one, which is I think is very, very interesting to at least consider, is that there's only two emotions: fear and love. That's it. Only fear and love, and that's it. So that's kind of what he's talking about, is that in general, I mean, there's more specific ones: anger, sadness, fear, all that stuff. But but if you look at it that way, as in love-based versus being connecting and connected with yourself and positive and that sort of thing, versus fear-based, that's limiting, hold back, stay away, that kind of thing. No matter whether you're very specific about it or not, if you can differentiate them just by those two big areas, it really, I found it very, very helpful. So I just wanted to point out that their love-based versus fear can be a huge change.
Wonderful,
So,
wonderful.
carry on.
So if we have dealt with this message before, then we think we know how to act, and we do it regardless of the consequences. This is because we think we know the answer and have bypassed our thinking center, because we feel we need an answer now. Our thinking center needs time to reason. We don't think we have time, so we don't do it, or do it poorly under stress. So,
okay.
if you don't have an
about
answer
that too is that, yeah, let me make a point about that too, please, if I could, is that it's because we think we know the answer a lot of times, and what that means is the learning component of that is that we like to be right. We like to be right. Us humans like to be right. It's an ego thing. We think we're right and we like to be right. And that's a good thing. I mean, we need to be right about, in a lot of ways. We need to, in order to function, we need to be, have to do the same thing that we've been doing. Yes, I understand, that kind of thing. I'm right about a lot of things, and it also can cause a whole bunch of problems when we think we are right and we then don't take a look at it. We work habitually. We are going on our automatic responses, all that stuff, because that's how we've always done it before, which is the right way, because that's how I've always done it. So be careful. My lesson there is be careful about what you're right about. What you're right about. Actually, long as we're on this subject, this is really pretty important.
Yes, man. Yeah. So we should be very careful about the automatic response system. We should be careful about the automatic response system.
Yep, exactly. And being right, that whole thing. What I've been finding in looking, I have a couple of, one in particular, a very good friend that committed suicide. It was awful. It was awful. It still just tears me up. He was one of my better friends, and he lost it. And he was one of the smartest people I've ever met. Literally, he was trying to break the world record, the Guinness Book of World Records, to create the longest prime number, the largest prime number ever created, a billion character number. This is kind of bizarre, but it just gives you an example of how smart this guy is, right? And but here's the problem. Being right, he's so smart that he was right most of the time. And he believed he was right, and he was right most of the time. But some of his beliefs about how life is and what to do with his pain and that sort of thing, the emotional side of that, he was right. He decided that life was awful, and he was sure that he was right about that, and so he took his life. I'm like, wait, you don't want to be right about that. You don't want to be right about that. Yes, you're used to being right. That's a good thing, but sometimes it's not a good thing. It's a really, really bad thing. So it's a dumb, it's a off example, but I have found that being right can be a life changer. So please be careful of that one. Please.
Definitely. Wonderful. So I believe that we should have this automatic response system under our control, especially in important situations, so that we are balanced. We don't do something that is not good.
Yes, and we can take Right. We can look at our automatic responses and stop for a minute and go, wait a minute, is that how I want to do this? Is that how I want to do this? If we bring it into our
Yes.
consciousness, we come into the present and we decide, we look at it, we decide and go, is that how I want to do it? If I've been doing like smoking, if I'm trying to stop smoking and every time I get stressed or every time, I get hungry or every time I go and get a cigarette, then that's what I used to do. Is that what you want to do? Is that working for you? Is that how you want to do it? You got to stop and bring it into your consciousness and decide. So that's kind of what we're talking about here.
That's true, man. So if we don't have an answer in our memory file or automatic response system, our emotional center sends the information to our reasoning center to figure out a response. So the problem is that our emotional center think the message is urgent and it agitates the reasoning center so much that it doesn't function well. So it is so impatient for an answer, it doesn't feel it has time to solve the problem and find the best answer before action is taken. So as soon as our emotional center thinks it has enough information, it sends directions to the action center to respond. So when we learn how to slow down the emotional responses and let our reasoning function more deliberately, we can develop more effective responses. Wonderful. This is why some people use techniques like count to 10 before they answer. Once we learn how to let our reasoning center work effectively, our reasoning can be as effective in emergency situations as it is in solving math problems. Wow. This is something I never
right.
very.
Go ahead.
Yes, Matt, you would like to explain this?
Just that, the largest EQ trainer in the world is called 6 seconds, number 6 second. And the reason it's called that is because like the counting to 10 example, when your emotions get really high, then it takes about 6 seconds for them to settle down a little bit. So the counting to 10 and making it deliberate is a real thing. It's a real thing. It's very effective. It's scientifically and emotionally.
That's true, man. Totally agree. So when we recognize a message that comes in that we don't know the answer to, and it doesn't have an emotional charge attached to it, we send it to the reasoning center. We then develop a rational answer and send it onto the action center so that we can respond. How effective the action we choose depends both on how receptive we are to problem solving activity and also on the belief system and the memory files it has to draw information from. You want to respond, man, to it?
Well, I'm a little concerned that we are going, if we keep reading to this whole thing, we're going to take longer than our usual half hour. Is that okay? Or do you want to skip forward a little bit, or how do you want to keep?
And we can talk about the important aspects, man, definitely, because I believe this paragraph is very important. This page is important because it's actually talking about how responses work. So I feel that, this page we can discuss in detail, and from then on, we can just talk about the summary.
Okay. Very good. All right. Yeah, this is important stuff. This is very important stuff. So I agree with you. We are developing our responses, and that we're training ourselves. There's 4 steps to learning that I think we've talked about before. Is that you don't know that you don't know, unconsciously incompetent. The second step is where you become consciously incompetent and you find out that you don't know. The third step is when you become consciously competent, where you can start doing it better consciously, but you got to think about it and you got to read about it or take a class on it or learn or something, do something, or stop your automatic responses and do it different, which is what we're talking about. And then eventually you can get to step 4, which is unconsciously competent, which is now you've made a new automatic response that works better for you, and it's kind of a habit and it's a belief system, and you created that on your own, on purpose. That's a wonderful thing.
Yes. Wow, wonderful. So our memory files contain all the information we have learned in life. We draw on these memory files for facts to solve our problems. We create information that we store in a memory file by merging our interpretation of the event with what really happened. This is how we create our own unique truth. So the other source our reasoning draws on is our belief system. Our belief system is how we see the world. It is our truths as we see them. Our belief system is our judgment about what we think is true in the world. All our reasoning in order to determine the answer is framed in what we think the truth is. Our belief system tells us not only what it thinks the truth is, but also how we should think and feel about it. So I believe our belief
Belief
system
systems
is
are a huge part of this whole thing.
belief system is one of our enemies, I believe, after reading this paragraph.
Well, it's not an enemy. Be careful. It's not an enemy. We got it. We have to have belief systems, but they can mess us up. That's for sure. They can be an enemy. They can be if we're not aware of them and we're working on them and without our knowledge or permission, even or even our permission. That's pretty well. So I don't. Yeah, it can mess you up. And the belief system is a thought. It's not a feeling necessarily. It's usually a thought. It's a generalized thought. Usually, I believe that people treat me this way because, or I believe life is, or I believe men are, or women are, or big generalized belief systems that can mess up things because sometimes they're not true. There's a joke about it that's all generalizations are wrong. Have you heard that?
Yes.
All generalizations are wrong. It's kind of fun, but it's
That's true.
but it's almost true because very rarely can you sum something up so huge and have it be correct, because there are situations where it's not correct, and so we need to come into the moment and decide if that's how we want to work this time. So yeah, they can definitely mess us up.
True, man. So once we know how our mind works, we can take control of it. When we take control of our mind, we can produce more effective responses. Great.
Hopefully.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
most of us have learned the typical response that we automatically apply when we receive input into our mind. The message comes in. We open the memory file associated with it, and what is the file dictates our response. So we can learn to modify how we respond. When we identify the response that we would like to change, we can develop a new and more effective response. It may not be as simple as it first appears, because we may need to make several changes in order to make one correction. We sometimes need to keep searching for the cause of the problem. Then we must do the work to overcome the old response pattern that we have in place, breaking the old habit.
Yeah.
So,
yep. It sounds easy. It's not. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. It sounds easy. Don't do it. Don't smoke this time.
yes.
Don't get angry. Just don't. It sounds easy, but wow. Sometimes this stuff is not easy. It's hard. It's simple, not easy.
Yes. Yes. So example, although we may be able to develop a reason-based response to a particular message, we may still become stressed by that message because the emotionally charged memory still exists and we have refused to act on it. So this is referred to as stuffing our emotions and will require further corrective work to get our belief system and our old memory in harmony with each other. Would you like to explain this, Matt?
Yeah. If we don't deal with our emotions, especially the larger ones, so a lot of times they'll hang around. You can't see them, but you can feel them, and they're in your body somewhere, and they hang around. And so what he's talking about is stuffing our emotions will require corrective work in the future. And so if you deal with the emotions when they happen in real time and let them go, then a lot of times they will not hang around. If you stuff them, then sometimes they're with you for a long time, whether you like it or not, and they mess with, like your belief systems, they underlie things without your knowledge or permission, and yikes, changes, it tweaks stuff without.
Yes. So we may, on the other hand, respond emotionally, but still be able to modify or control our response based on the input from our reasoning center. So this is what we do in anger management. In order to change our responses in a way that works well for us, we need to be able to look at the information that we have in our memory file and align it with a new belief truth that we have installed in our belief system that tells us we should feel a certain way in a particular situation. We'll spend some time discussing how we can install new beliefs and align our belief system in such a way that we no longer produce ineffective negative response patterns. So once we understand how our mind functions, we can use that understanding to find the appropriate answer to any problem that is presented. We'll be better equipped to recognize the old ineffective beliefs and behavior patterns that we have adopted. We will have a better understanding of the process of change. We'll also have an understanding that change is possible. It is somewhat like having a problem with our car engine not running. If we understand how it works or have an instruction manual, we can better diagnose the problem and make the proper repairs in order to get it running smoothly again. How to diagnose our mind's problems, how to get it running smoothly again, is what we're going to talk about throughout this book. So the instruction manual is
let's see how our mind works. Yeah, instruction manual. Yep, exactly. Yep.
So creating our reality and our truth. We respond in a particularly emotional way. Yes, man.
Oh, good.
Yeah, creating our reality and our truth. We respond in a particularly emotional way whenever we access a specific memory file. The message we receive depends on the emotional charge existing in the accessed memory or memories. This is how we create our reality. After a while, we are no longer able to separate the facts received from the emotional assumptions we made. So based on past perceptions, we merge our interpretation of the event with what really happened, and this becomes our truth. So what we hold as our truth then affects how we feel about the new message we receive.
Yep, that's what I was talking about. Our truth is where what we were right about. This is what we saw. This is what we felt. And so this is what's real, but may or may not be. May or may not be.
True. Changing the way our mind works.
That's
wonderful. The way we process information in our mind. We can develop a process that will produce more effective results for us. By changing our belief system and modifying our old response patterns, we can learn to look for the most effective response in any situation. The key is to learn to change our arousal response pattern from the old judgmental response that we have been taught to a new pay attention, positive, purposeful action pattern. You want to respond to this, Matt?
Yes. Well, then, yeah, but let's go on to the next part. The next part is the old way is our information goes into our brain. We create the love or fear response, positive or negative kind of thing, and results in a judgmental action. He's calling it a judgmental action. The new way, however, is the same information goes to your brain, the same information, but instead of creating the love or fear response, we create a pay attention response, open our eyes and pay attention to what's going on, come into the present moment. And this results in a positive, assertive action. And there's going to be more description about that in a minute.
Yes. So I call the old judgment, old pattern judgmental because it is based on the first deciding good or bad before we go into a thinking response. It is the way we have been doing things for a long time. It produces results based on our existing beliefs and memories. There are two major problems with this system. It isn't very flexible. We always keep getting the same results, whether they work very well or not. When we are not satisfied with the results, it is difficult to make changes. So I refer to the new pattern as assertive because it allows us to take control of our brain functions to the extent that we find our behavior ineffective. We are open to make changes that produce more effective results. Assertive behavior is love-based because we do what we want to do and we want to do what we do. So to develop this new assertive behavior system, we need to have a belief system that is open to change. Our belief system needs to change when it produces ineffective behavior, it produces stress because our belief system is not in harmony with itself. Wow. The material in this book is designed to teach you how to make the shift to this new positive, assertive way of thinking and acting. You want to respond to this,
Okay. So I have a, yes, I do. We're changing things, right? We're being open to change, and we're changing things. Change is often and very often uncomfortable, right? We're in our comfort zone. We've been doing it the same way over and over and again. That's fine with us. Now we were trying to do it different. I'm supposed to not pick up the cigarette. I'm supposed to not get angry. Wait a minute. I've always done it that way. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It feels weird. It feels unnatural or whatever. I don't know what the word is, but it feels uncomfortable is kind of bottom line to the whole thing. And what I suggest, what we teach is to try to get comfortable being uncomfortable, which means that you're out of your comfort zone, and that's okay with you. If you have to stay in your comfort zone at all times, you can't learn much. You're not going to change much. A lot of stuff is going to end up going the same way you've been doing because it's comfortable for you. But if you are okay being uncomfortable and be a little squirmy sometimes, and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel right, but yeah, it's better. I'm getting better results, huh? Even that is uncomfortable sometimes. So being comfortable, being uncomfortable is a thing that we teach.
Very important.
I think it's helpful.
Yes, man.
All right. All right, here comes the tricky part is where this graphic, I'm making it smaller so we can see the whole thing at once.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the judgmental. There's a graph in here about the judgmental system, and then another one about the assertive system. And it's a little bit hard to follow, but we'll see if we can follow along with it.
Sure.
So the belief system, you notice, is at the top. We then have a perception. That's how we've always seen things. We go back to our memory files and look at what we've done in the past and how it's went before. It then goes into our emotion center. It becomes an automatic response, and we take an action. So that's the judgmental system. Is kind of flows real quickly. It's based on a lot of stuff in our past, and it's not particularly what's the word, conscious. It's just happening. We're just letting it rip, and it just goes, and we're doing what we always done. So any comments on that one?
So what about this positive, neutral, and negative signs that we have, Matt? So can you explain that?
Just that anything can be positive or negative. It can work well. It cannot work well. It can be happy memories, unhappy memories. It can be pleasant emotions, unpleasant emotions, etc. I think he's just trying to show that we have choice, and that we can go for positive, neutral, negative, etc. And judgments. We're talking about judgments here, and judgments usually imply negative, but they don't have to. You can go, oh, I love that happened, or I really enjoy that. That's a judgment, but it's a positive judgment. So I think we're trying to show that we have choice here.
Yes. Okay. So someone steps out in front of you when we are driving down the highway, an activity that is potentially dangerous to us, that we don't already know how to deal with. So judgmental system is we search our reasoning to find out what we must do, but our emotions are so strong that we are unable to think clearly in time to swerve around them. So neutral. Perception is when we see.
So neutral is something happened, an event happened. The neutral part is an event happened. We haven't put a judgment on it yet. It just happened. Somebody is walking. That's a neutral, right? Someone is walking. They stepped out on the highway, which was not a good idea. But we decide that was not a good idea. They're just walking. So that in itself is neutral. Then we put the negative or positive spin on it.
Yeah. So the negative is recognition of memory file sees this and recalls from an old memory that this is a fearful situation. So recognition of memory file signal our emotional center that we are in danger and we must take some action to avoid harm. The emotional center is too agitated to access the reasoning center and tells our automatic response center to do something. Wow. The emotional center is unable to send clear directions to our action center. So our automatic response is unable to deal with the situation. And finally, when it is too late, directs turn the wheel sharply, something is in the way. So it directs us to turn the wheel sharply, that is, and there's something in the way. So action, turning the wheel too late, not only ends up hitting the person, but wrecks the car. So we are making a wrong
going through too many
wrong decisions.
Yep.
So this is judgmental system is something which won't work for us. It's not good. So regarding now, next we have the same driving incident in assertive system. So in assertive system, the arousal message is processed by our reasoning, beliefs and habits calmly, quickly, and efficiently enough that we're able to avoid hitting the person. So neutral. Just a second.
He's taken some of the things that were negative and making them neutral. So that's an improvement. So go ahead.
So perception is when we see the person step out into the roadway, that is neutral. Recognition of memory files, that a problem has occurred and sends the message to the reasoning center for resolution, that is also neutral. The reasoning center assesses the situation. The reasoning center assesses the situation and determines the most appropriate action to avoid an incident, avoid an accident, and forwards the information to the action center. That's also neutral. The action center directs the body which actions to take to prevent an accident. So that's also neutral. So here, instead of being negative, these are the recognition, the reasoning, and the action. They're all in neutral.
Yep, you're more in the moment and you're more able to react appropriately. Very good. Okay. Anything else on that judgment versus assertive system?
Just Matt, your final comments on assertive and judgmental system, maybe for like 2 minutes, if it's fine. So regarding this accident case that we have, so can you just take this accident case as an example and give the judgmental point of view and assertive point of view so that it will be even more clear?
Okay. What I think what is that one of the main points is that they are taking the large emotional response out of the formula, which creates allows you to be more in the moment. And that is part of emotional intelligence, is not only sometimes taking into account our emotions, but also sometimes not taking into account our emotions, to actually skip them in a way, because there's no time, or because we want to more balance our cognitive rational mind with our emotional mind. Sometimes our emotions get too high, like when someone jumps out and you're like, whoa, too much, and you get too upset about it, and then you can't react to it. Rather, you increase your emotional or the cognitive side, the recognition side, and decrease the feeling, and then you can have a better response to it. Does that make sense?
Yes, man. Wonderful explanation.
Cool.
So there's a homework.
Right. Yeah. Actually, we had homework from last time. I wonder how you want to handle homework, because some of this, there was homework in lesson 1. I don't know if you were able to do any of it, but it was about being aware of what was going on for you between the sessions.
Because what I think about the homework is, because the homework talks about doing it for like 1 week at least, so that so what I thought is at the end of the session, if we can discuss about the homework, I think that would be great, about about my answers from the homework. So because that would be my takeaways, that would be my learning, is what I believe. Or that would be my positive change.
Good. Sounds good. So this is about discovering what upsets you, writing down every time you're criticized or complain about something, every time you felt stress, every time you felt depressed, write down what you thought, how you felt, what you did in response to the trigger. Was it helpful? Did that upset you? How important was the issue that upset you? Was there a better way of handling it? So it's basically practicing what we've just been talking about, which is deciding consciously, noticing first, accepting second, and then deciding whether you want to get upset about it or not, get angry about it or not, get depressed about it or not, get stressed about it or not. We get to decide. It's pretty cool. So yeah, it's about making it more cognitive.
Sure, Matt, I'll do this.
Intentional.
EQ reflections from this chapter. So when I learn how my mind functions, I'll have control over it. I can find positive solutions to my problems. I do not need to be controlled by the actions of others. So this is what I always believe. This is the problem solving. So I can trade my negative past for a positive future. Wow. I can produce the life I want when I take control of my mind. I'm at peace when I make positive choices. Wow. Great reflections.
Yeah, good stuff. Huh?
So these are my problem solving. These will be my problem solving skills.
Yep, good stuff. This is very, very good. All right.
Very interesting.
Good. We did it. So that's the end of letter 2. What did you say?
Very informative and insightful chapter.
Oh, good. All right. So we were talking before about fear and love. Now we're going to talk about fear and anger next, and what makes us angry, and some other things about fear and anger and how those are related, because they are very definitely related. A lot of people, especially guys, think that no, I don't get afraid, I just get angry, and it's like, well, wait a minute. We'll take a look at that next time. So good stuff. Fantastic. Well done. Thank you again for sharing.
Thank you so much. Really had great fun learning new things. Take care. See you.
Excellent.
See you soon.